Okay. I'd like to just in terms of what we spoke about last week, I'd like to review a little bit the mitzvah of Ori Miklat. Just really one comment, and it might take a few minutes, but it's really one comment. There's a mitzvah, Kuf Pei Beis, Hi shetzivonu lahavdil sheish Ori Miklat kedei shiu muchonois lemake nefesh b'shegegah. So, excuse me, one second. Okay. Basically, okay, let me just say, okay. They're in Ori Miklat, there are basically an Ori Miklat, there's a mitzvah of Ori Miklat, lahavdil or lahafrish, and in Tanakh, in Yoshua, it's called the kachu because it's hafrosha for a certain purpose. Okay, that's muchonis. Okay. The question, the most important question to ask over here is there are two mitzvahs over here. Is a mitzvah kuf pei beis of havdola of Ori Miklat, and there's a mitzvah of golus, or lahaglos, or lahoitzi, whatever translation you like. And the question is, in the frame of reference of Sherish Yud, the same way lechem aponim, there are not two mitzvahs. There's not a mitzvah of the afia and then the sidur, not two separate mitzvahs. The afia and all the seder of getting the lechem ready is only a hachonah, and hachonah is not a mitzvah, separate mitzvah. But here, we should have said that the hachonah of the Ori Miklat for golus should have been should have not been a mitzvah, minyan mitzvahs, because of Sherish Yud. So the question is, so why and how does this work? So, if you recall, we mentioned in the mitzvah golus, there are basically three parts. The Hainu, let's say, there are three times that the רוצach moves. The רוצach moves from his city to run to the Ori Miklat in order he shouldn't be killed before the trial, and then they bring him back for the trial, and then after the trial, they say that he should go to Ori Miklat. After he should go to Ori Miklat, they send him to the Ori Miklat, the Bezdin's Magnet Ori Miklat. So if you recall, we said that the mitzvah of Ori Miklat is basically only the last leg, the Hainu, after there's a psak bezdin. So the bezdin says, after there's psak bezdin, the bezdin says that he has to go to Golus, and they bring him to Golus, and that's the mitzvah of Golus. However, before that, when the before that, before that, when the רוצach runs to the miklat to save himself on his own volition, there's no mitzvah of golus. And the mitzvah of hafroshas or miklat is for klita, not to the kiyum mitzvahs golus. They are ready for the maki nefesh bishgogo, in order to make sure that he's not killed. I'll explain to you what I mean. So it means even in the first case, and I'll show you a pasuk in Chumash. Let me just show you something. In Bamidbar Chaf Hey, go down, it says, you see, at the beginning, yeah, here we go. No, Shusas Lamed. Lamed. I think it's Lamed. Yeah. See, you open up like this. Listen to Perik Lamed Hey Pasuk Vav and Zayin. V'eis ha'orim asher titnu l'Levim, sheish ori ha'miklot, asher titnu lonus shomer רוצach, v'aleim titnu aboim u'shtayim ir. Kol ha'orim asher titnu l'Levim aboim u'shmona ir, esen v'esmigisheyen. Whoever asher titnu me'achuz Yisrael. Okay. So then this pasuk tests going on. V'yabashal Moshe leimo daber b'nei Yisrael. V'yamat alem ki atem uv b'seyaldein neres Canaan. V'oyu lechem ha'orim lemiklat migoyel adom. Now listen to this. V'lo yomus ha'rotzeach ad omdoi lifnei ha'edel ha'mishpot. So what does that mean? It means we're talking about before the psak din. The only time the רוצach can die is after there's a psak din. If the best in Pascal and he said it's a shoygeg, this sentence doesn't make any sense. He already stood before the Eidel Mishpat, and they Pascal that he's a shoygeg. So it means we're talking about when the רוצach runs away before. That's nos. He's running. And that's why you have to have Tochel Chaderech. On the third time, when they bring him, after they have the Amid al-Din, and they pass he's a shoygeg, the two Talmidei Chacham that come along with him. And they protect him from, they tell the Goel Adam not to touch him. But with his nos on his own accord, that's what the Ori Miklat are for. It could be the Ori Miklat also clear it afterwards. That's true. But it's not a hachana for golus, because the Ori Miklat has a tafkid is mufurish chumash to save the goyla, to save the רוצach before the psak. V'hoyu lachem he'orim lemiklat migoyel v'le'omus רוצach ad omdoi lifnei ho'ei l'mishpot. Okay, now I'll show you something else. You look in Yeshua. In Perek Chof. Okay. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe leimo. Daber Perek Chof. Daber b'nei Yisrael leimo. Tnu lochem es orei hamiklot asher dibarti aleichem biyad Moshe. B'nei Yisrael should give to themselves, because the purpose of these cities is l'miklot. Perek Chof Aleph is a discussion of Ori Levim. The hafrosha from the Ori Miklot are completely independent of Ori Levim. And what's the purpose of it? It is true that every Ori Miklat, of Ishesh Ori Miklat, also Ori Leviim, they're part of the 48 Ori Leviim. But the Perich Chof, the stress of the Hafrosha of the Ori Miklat are for Lochem. What's Lochem? Pasuk Gimel. Lo nu shomer rotzech maki nefesh b'shegagah b'vli das v'oil lechem l'mikol migol adom v'nos elaches olam oile v'omad. Now there's an interesting story over here, and the amazing thing is that a priori one would have asked the question that Moshe Rabbeinu lo Yoshua minayin, and the dinim over here, which are mentioned Yoshua, which are not mentioned in the Torah. V'omad Pesach Shah Ho'ir, and he's begging to come in. V'diber b'osnei ziknu Ho'ir Ahi es Dvorov. V'isvo iso Ho'ir Aleihem v'nosnu lo mokom v'yoshav imom. This is before the Amida Ladin. Look at Pasuk Vav. V'yoshav bo'ir hahi ar omdoi lifnei ho'eda lamishpot. And then they bring him back. And then there's another part of the Pasuk that Radak explains it. The Pasuk is Makatzir. And there's a second time that he goes into the city. Because if it's good for Miklat, it also happens to be good for Golus, but that's not the Afrosha. The Afrosha Shemiklat. Ad Mois HaKoyin HaGodol, Asher Yeh Bayom Mohem. Oz Yoshevu Tzech U'Boel Iroi, V'el Beisoi, V'el Ho'ir, Asher Noshom. And just to show you what I mean, that the Kilu is a new din over here that we're learning from Yeshua. If you look at the Rambam, in Oiseach, in Perek Zayin, I think it's there. Yeah. Second. Yeah. Listen to this. Perek Zayin Alochavov. V'chein ir she'ein bo zikenim eino koletes. It's not clear at all. And what's the raya? Shenema zikne oyahi lebayin l'shon. It's like a pasuk Yeshua. So I guess the pasuk Yeshua is a Kabbalah, and it tells you a tonight the din ori mikol. You need zikne oyah. That's be loy for the first goals. That's what I'm trying to tell you, that there are two purposes over here. One is the kiyum of the Oynish Golas. That is the mitzvah of Golas. And there's another for Miklat, to save him. And the mashal, you have saving without kiyum Golas, the mashal Migur She'ir. So that is what I wanted to point out to you, okay? And I just wanted to share something with you. I'm very confused, okay? I'll tell you why I'm confused. Yeah. If you would have asked me, I'm telling you it's not true. I would have said, we know, for example, in the Moamakis and the Medayik from the Pasuk, V'aleim Titnu, that the Shar Ori Levim, the Membez Ori Levim, who are not Ori Miklat, also collect. So the question is, they're collect, okay, but is there a kiyum of Golus in the Ori Levim? Because if you remember, the Ram says that the mitzvah of Golus is to lahaglo Miklat. So maybe one would have said that there's only Golis in our Miklat and not in our Levine. It would have been beautiful. However, I have a confession. The Rambam in Perek Zayin of Bichus Ritzayach, Halacha Hey. Okay. Ritzayach, this is part is okay. Shehorg b'shegegah b'yim miklato, goy lebo mishchuna l'shchuna, v'eino yotzei min ha'ir. Okay, beseder. Uben Levi shehorag b'medinosai, goyle lemedina acheres me'oel levim, lefi shekulon koltois kmo she'is boyer. So l'chera it says there's a kiyum golus in oil levim. That's what it says. So I'm not sure I understand this whole thing, but just telling you what I know and what I don't know. Okay. Okay, next. Now, I want to go, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that we somewhat exhausted the Dalit Mrs. Bezdin. I think the rest of the discussion really is for Sheresh Dalit. Tliya, I think we spoke about. K'vura we did also, but I'd like to go over it because I want to make it clear, I think. Okay. Now, there's a pasuk. Let's start the two psukim. Let's just start it and let's just see. The pasuk goes like this. The psukim go like this. It's in Dvorim, Chaf Aleph, to pasuk Chaf Beis and Chaf Gimel. Perek Chaf Aleph, pasuk Chaf Beis and Chaf Gimel. It goes like this. V'chiyeh bo'ish chet mishpat moves, is chayim misa. V'humas. V'salisa oisoi al eitz. Loisolin nivloso al ho'etz, ki kovo tikborenu bayomahu, ki kilas elokim tolui, v'loisitami es ad moscho asher Hashem elokecho noisi l'chonach. So there are 5 parts over here in these two psukim. V'saliso is al eitz, that's mitzvahs Aseh of Taliya. Okay? Loisolin nivlos al eitz, that's the mitzvahs Loisaseh of Loisolin. Ki kovo tikborenu bayomahu, that's the mitzvah Aseh of K'vur. Ki kilas elokim tolui is another part. We have to know what that is. And v'loisitame es ad moscha. Both in Sefer Mitzvah and Mishnah Torah, there's 3 mitzvahs. There's a mitzvah Aseh of Taliya, Reish Lamed. The mitzvahs K'vura Aseh Reish Lamed Aleph, and the mitzvahs Loisolin Loisaseh Samach Vav. Loisitame es ad moscha. There's a Machugas Ram and the Ramban in Sheresh Shishi, in Sheresh Chamishi. According to the Rambam, it's only a tam for the lav Loisolin, and it's not min minyan. That's the whole purpose of Sheresh Hay. And the Ramban disagrees and counts Loisitam es ad moscha as a mitzvah, a separate mitzvah. The Kikilus Elokim Tolui is like an explanation, like in the middle of nowhere, and we don't know what it's explaining. There's a machlekes, how and what this is going on. Rashi in Pasuk Chavav says that it's a time for the mitzvahs taliya. It's very, I read the Psukim mamish. B'chisiyeh b'ish chet mishmat movis v'hu maslis ois ala eitz. Then stop. You forget about loisolin is loisolin es nevos al eitz, and you forget about kovetik buena me'omahu. Ki killis on kim tolui. That is why you tell lois ala eitz. And it should have been at the end of Pasuk of Beis. It should have been Talisa Oisa Alo Eitz, Kikilas Elokim Toli. And it shouldn't have been after the lav of Tliya and the mitzvah Kvur. If it's a reason, Kikilas Elokim Toli, that's the reason why you tell him. It's very strange, like in the middle of nowhere. And Rashi changes in Pasuk of Gimel, and there he explains Kikilas Elokim Tolui is the reason why you have to take him off the eights. That makes sense. It says the Pasuk says Kovatik Bueno Kim Loisol Livlos Al Eights Kovatik Bueno Kikilas Elokim Tolui. That's why you can't leave him on the eights. And that's Rashi in Pasuk Chof Gimel. And Ramban. Well, there's another option that it's a bizoyim takolut kikilos kim tolui. Another reason you have to be murderous eight is because it's a bizoyim takolut boch u'moshel l'shnei achim toimim. That's one reason that he had to take him down. Or if he's up there, in their minds, they'll think, what Aveira did he do? And they'll be chosh about the Aveira, and that we don't want them to do. So that's the reason why you take him down. Okay. Now, let's now go over. I think we discussed this, but I want to get it straight because I was still very confused when I was working on it. In the HaMitzvos, let's just read it. HaMitzvah achas u'shleishim mosayim. He shezivonu likbo harugei bezdin biyom chenelgu. V'u'am yis'al kikovetik buenu v'osh sifri v'chulei. Then it says, "V'hu adin b'shar meisim kol meshi kover kol meis miYisrael b'yoyim moisei u'chein yikra hameis she'ein lo kover she'yisasim v'avu asrei meis mitzvah kloima hameis she'mitzvah al kol adam l'kol." So l'chayra, what you have over here is the mitzvah of Kvur is b'chol beis Yisrael. Not only and not limited to Litlim and not limited to Harugi Bezdin. The lav of Leisolin in Sefer Mitzvos and Samach Vav, he only quotes it by Taliya. And Lo says Samach Vav. And the lav is to leave him on the eights. Leisolin es nivlos al eights. Al eights. And this is the Pshuto Shomiko. Leisolin es nivlos al eights. The Rambam, in the beginning of the mitzvah kvura is on all harugei bezdin. HaMitzvah ha'achas u'shloishim u'masayim hi shetzivonu likbo harugei bezdin b'yom shenelgu. So that very clearly, okay, is an all harugei bezdin, not limited to nitlin. And at this point, there's no mitzvah on Sha'ar Mesa Yisrael. The mitzvah is a mitzvah on Bezdin to bury the harugei Bezdin. And the source of this mitzvah is the pasuk he covers Tikrena B'Yomahu. The Rambam he says and quotes a Sifri. Loshen Sifri in Parshas Kiseitze, Piska Reish Chaf Aleph Kikovo. Tikborenu mitzaseh. So this is very odd. Waiting the Sifri to tell you that Kova Tikborenu says a loshen and tzivui, a loshen of a tzivui, which is supposed to do something. That's a mitzaseh. So what do we need a pasuk for? So one would have said, I think, that without the Sifri, you could have explained Kikova Tikbrenu is the reason why you have to take the nitle off the eights. And that's why it's written B'loshen ki Kova Tikbrenu. It's not a separate sivui, but it's an explanation of the lav of Leisol. Leisol goes to the Gleno. Why can't you still leave him up? Because you have to take him down to be buried, but it doesn't say there's a mitzvah to be buried. And for the Sifri learns that even though it's a tam, it's still a mitzvah. Mitzvah saseh. Now, the pasuk says, "Ki kavod tikbrena b'yomahu," and l'cheira, this pasuk in Pshuto Shamiko is only on the nitla, which is the Megade from the Oved Avodah Zarah. The Rambam doesn't explain why, but he expands it to all of them. He should tzivonu likbo harugei bezdin beyond kfur chernergu. However, comes up Sadigoy in his Midyan HaMitzvos. Perek Yudches, page 162. V'tziva shemi shekofa b'Hashem oikiloloi yitoleh al eitz ve'achach yored b'seif hayoim v'yikover. The Rambam, in other words, according to Sadigoin, it's a mitzvah only on nitlin. The Ram says misvara that if the mitzvah is kvu on nitlin, it shouldn't make a difference whether he's nitle or other harugei bezdin. You could add another reason. There's halacha mipi hashmua that there's a mokum kvua miyuchad for niskolim nisrofim, and a mokum kvua miyuchad for ne'erogim and nechnokim. That the Ram quotes halacha mipi Kabbalah, I think, in Perek Yudalev Sanhedrin halacha ches. This halacha that is a mokum, a separate mokum for kfuas bezdin, harugi bezdin, works on the assumption that one has to do. So based on one has to do a kfura on the harugi bezdin. So we expand the mitzvah. There's lav dafka nitlin based on the Kabbalah that you require a kvura for all dalid mises bezdin. That's another way of doing it. But the Rambam goes further and says that this is not limited. This is not limited. The mitzvah kvura tahugi bezdin, but applies to all Mesi Yisrael. And there's a new chelik in the mitzvah. We have to know how he learns it, whether it's a drasha or mipi hashmua, we'll have to see. And you can question whether the Rambam meant to equate the two, or it's not the Ika mitzvah. But the Ramban quotes the Rambam in Shirish Aleph and explains the Rambam interpreted that Kfur Sham Mesa Yisrael is not the Ika mitzvah, but it's a drasha. And he wrote the following: Ma shedorshu min hamnitle l'shar mesim. Ma shedorshu min hamnitle l'shar mesim. So he seems to be it's like a drasha to expand the mitzvah. But not min hanitle l'shar mesim means any mace. And mace Yisrael. So the first question we should ask is if you're ready to accept that we expand the mitzvah of kfuas bezdin, of kfuas nitlin, to all kfuas bezdin because of svara. So maybe you can expand it not only to all harugi bezdin, but to all mesim. So the answer probably is that you can only expand kvura, which is on bezdin, that bezdin should bury other harugi bezdin. But to mechayiv Yisrael to do a burial based on the fact that bezdin has to bury, that I'm not sure that you would be able to do misvara. So that's what the Ramban says is a drasha, dashu. So it's only with a drasha you can expand the mitzvah to include all Mesa Yisrael. So that's what he has so far. In Minyan HaMitzvos, the Ikar mitzvah is Kvuas Harugi Bezdin. And then there's a mitzvah of Kol Mesa Yisrael, and that's an extension of the mitzvah. Let's say it's a drasha, whichever way you do it, you can extend the mitzvah. Bisklov says you can stand a mitzvah to a Jehoshua. That's what he says in Hilchos Malchus Asuros. Now, as far as the lav, the Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvos only in Samach Vav only quotes the Pshuta Shomikra, that the lav is Alonis HaHorug Hatoli Alo Eitz. However, it's very clear and incontrovertible that the Rambam is moide that there is a lav by Shar Mesim because it's the Chamishn and Sanhedrin, Mem Vav and Aleph, that the lav is Kol Halona Mikfuis Mesi Israel. So what the Ram did in Sefer HaMitzvos is only quoted Pshuta Shomikra, and he doesn't always have to go on and explain how the mitzvah could be extended. And there he didn't explain it, but it's a Chamishna. There's no reason to assume that he disagrees. Okay. That is the Rambam in Minyan HaMitzvos. Now, let's do the Rambam Mishnah Torah. The Rambam Mishnah Torah it clearly says that you're over the lav of Meilin Mesa Yisrael B'li Kvura on Loisolin. It's not only Halon ala eight, but it's Halon B'li Kvura, and that's the Mishnah, and that the Ram brings in Hilchos Sanhedrin. But however, the Ram doesn't bring that there's an Aseh to be Koiva Mesa Yisrael. And maybe he's of the opinion that the Aseh was only said by Aruge Bezdin. The Rambam in Hilchos Sanhedrin, Perek Tesvav Aloch Ches. Mitzvah Aseh likbo es kol Aruge Bezdin. B'yoyim hariga shnemo keep kol v'tikavli yamahu. For Aruge Bezdin Bovad El Kol HaMeilin, he starts with the Aseh, and then he moves to the Loisaseh. El Kol HaMeilin es Meisoi over Beloisaseh. And the truth is, the problem didn't start with the Rambam. The problem is the problem of the Mishnah, because that's the Lashon of the Mishnah. And Memvav and Aleph, Sanhedrin, V'loi Zoi Bovad Omu El Kol HaMeilin Es Meisoi Oivim Beloisaseh. And it doesn't quote. And the Gemara in Sanhedrin Memvav Beis Omer Rabbi Yechon Mishum B'Shum Yochoi Minayin Lemeilin Es Meisoi Shoiv Olo Beloisaseh Tamaloi Mikikova Tikblenu Mikan Lemeilin Es Meisoi Shoiv Beloisaseh. So the Mishnah and the Chera, Reb Shimon Yochai's memra that Rabbi Yechon is quoting, it's only limited to the lab. It's just that he starts with the mitzvah say at the beginning in Sanhedrin and only by Harugi Bezdin, and he ends with a lav by all makes a mitzvah, so one might assume there's no Aseh. So then it comes out that there is an Aseh by Harugi Bezdin, and the lav applies all over, but it's only a lav tof. So if you go with this approach, then the Rambam Mishnah Torah has the lav by all Mesim mitzvah, by all Mesim, but the Aseh is only by Ugi Bezdin, and then he would disagree with what he says in Sefer HaMitzvos. However, the jury is not in yet, because there are two Rambams that are a problem. The Rambam in Hilchos Ovel in two places seems to make a reference to something that one could construe that it's a mitzvah say of Kfur on Sham Mesa. The Rambam in Hilchos Ovel in Perek Yud Beis Halacha Aleph Avolim Siva Shol Yikover ain't Shoymen Lo. Shakfur mitzvah Shenema Ki Kover Tibrenu. So it's mefurish. There's a mitzvah of Kover Tibrenu B'Sham Mesa. And also in the Prate mitzvahs of Hilchos Ovel, listen to this, the very strange lashon. Lis abel ala krevim, va'afilu koyin mistame umisabel al akrevim. Okay, that's okay. The Ram is putting the tumor and avelis together, but different flip that he did in Sefer Mitzvah, which discussed that. The Ein Adam, the incoherent statement, Ein Adam misabel al harugi bezdin. Ulefi zeh kolalti hilchos elu b'sefer zeh. The Rambam seems to be bothered by a question, what the heck? Why did he put hilchos ovel in Sefer Shoftim? Ulefi zeh kolalti halachos elu b'sefer zeh, Sefer Shoftim. Shehein me'ein kavur b'yom hamisa. Shehi mitzvah say. So what does it mean? She'me'ein kavur b'yom hamisa. She mitzvah say. So you see, the Prate mitzvahs, I'm not so bothered by. Okay, let's just. Because you see, there's something that just doesn't make any sense. What's the Rambam out to do? He's out to explain why he put Hilchos Ovel in Sefer Shoftim. So if there's a relationship of Hilchos Ovel to Sefer Shoftim, then you're okay. So if you talk about there's a separate Indian of Kvura of all Mesim, you don't gain anything. If his reference is to Kfuras Bezdin, and he's apologizing, Ki'ilu, that there's no Avelus on Harugi Bezdin, and I'm on one hand, I'm comparing Avelus to Kvura, and we're talking the Kvura of, then it's the Kvura of Harugi Bezdin, therefore it's in Sefer Shoftim. But you should understand that in Harugi Bezdin, there's no Avelus. So really, it's Tav Shover Imoy. So maybe they can start reading it. This Abel ala Krevin, but I'm not sure if I'm brighter. But I feel claim mistame umisam ומסתמא ומסעבל על קרובים, ואין עוד מסעבל על הוגי בזן. לפי זה, כללתי הלוכס אלו בספר זה, שהן מעין קבורה ביום מיסה שהיא מססה. And even though in Alugi Bezin, there's no Avelus. That's I'm just wondering. You just have to know how to read it. But the reference in Perigud Bezin of Avel is a real problem. Avalim Siva, Shalikova, we're not talking about the Kvus Bezdin. Shalikova ain't Shoymala Shakvua Mitzvah. Shenema Kikova Tikburenu. And the truth is, there's a raya to this approach in the Protim Mitzvah at least, because as much as the Ram might mention there's a mitzvah of Kvura by Shalmeis in Mishnah Torah, at least in Perigud Beis, there is no place in Mishnah Torah the Ram says that the Kvura of Mesim has to be on the Yom HaMisa. He says by Alona, you're allowed to be do it. And there's no discussion mitzvah say b'chlal. And here in the Protei Mitzvahs, he talks about shehein me'en kvua b'yoim hamisa she mitzvah say. So the chayre is referring to Agogei Bezdin. Now, so we have to understand, is there a steer or is not a steer? What's going on? And the truth is, the whole way, if the Rambam's idea is to say there's a mitzvah say kfur by Sham Meis Yisrael, it's really a crazy way of saying. It's a derech agadik thing. The Rambam is explaining that if he's mitzvah not to kovroi, so you shouldn't listen to him. Why? Because kfur is a mitzvah. So he's saying, you normally says mitzvah say the kfur mason. He just says derech agadik. Maybe you'll think you can make it seem then not to be nick, but no, it's against the mitzvah. And that's the whole explanation and saying the whole discussion of the mitzvah Mishnah Torah. Very odd. However, and the truth is a very interesting, the Sugi Sanhedrin, on the Vavam base, Iboilahu, Kvur Mishum Bizyoinihu, O Mishum Kaporahu, Lamai Nafkamina, the Amrila Beina Lemikva, Lau Gavur. I don't want to be buried. I Amit Mishum Bizyoina, who Loko Kamine, he can't be Mavazim. Vi Amit Mishum Kaporahu, Ho Oma Loibina Kapora, I don't want Kapora. But maybe the whole difference in two pshatim is only if the mitzvah kfu is a drabonon. But if mitzvah kfu is a deraisa, you only Rab Shimon is dorish time of the kor. So maybe that's the Lamas Machadish in Hilchos Ovel that there's a deraisa, and therefore there's no mokum for the question of the Gemara. He doesn't mention Bizyoin in this. Okay, Lechem Mishnah goes like that. I don't know if we're better shape. you can explain everything, but we have no clarity. It's not written in a way that anyone can actually understand what's going on, I think. I don't know. So let's just summarize. The Ram Mishnah Torah, there's a lot from the Eskvur Koivim. And the Ram Mitzvos, there's an Aseh of Kvura on Shal Mesim. But Mishnah Torah, Legabe Kvuras Koiviv, it's not clear 100% what's going on. The truth is, the Gedolei Olam discussed this issue, and you'll see there's a Chuvas Radvaz, Chelek Aleph, Siman Shin Yud Aleph, and there's a Chuvas Shagesaya Chadoshus in Siman Vov. Now, let's take the next point. At least, I'm not sure if I understand everything, but at least there's some clarity of what we know and what we don't know. Now, whatever the Ram Mishnah Torah only brings the heta of doing a kvura later only by Shal Mesim. He doesn't mention it by Harugi Bezdin. In Shal Mesim, there's the inyan of covered in the kvura Shal Mesim. But in Kvuras Harugi Bezdin has nothing to do with covered, but it's a mitzvah Kvura al Bezdin, and that's what's mechabed anyone. And even the question about, for example, the sugya Sanhedrin about the mitzvah shol kovroi, that's only in Shal Mesim you can have a discussion about it. But everyone understands very well that in Harugi Bezdin, they have to be buried. Now, it is clear this mitzvah is on Yom HaMisa. The Ram over here says it very clearly. Mitzvah say, he likבור hameis biyom hamis. Likבור harugi bezdin biyom shenelgu. In the Protei Mitzvahs in the Sanhedrin, likבור hanera biyom harigosai. In Mir Mitzvah Kotzer, likבור hanehrag biyom. However, the Rambam over here in Minyan HaMitzvahs adds that there's a mitzvah of kvura. Not only adds a mitzvah kvura in Shal Mesim, but the mitzvah kvura is beyond misasa. That's what he says. V'uadin b'Shal Mesim kloima sheikova kol meis b'Yisrael beyond moisai. Okay. So that's good. So we have clarity over here also that the Rambam and Mishnah Torah and all place talk about that the mitzvah of Yom Kippur on Harugi Bezdin. And here he adds that you need Yom Kippur, Yom Misa, not only in Harugi Bezdin, but also in Shal Mesim. But it's a double portion that there's a mitzvah even after Yom HaMisa, because the Rambam says that there's a mitzvah kfura by Meis Mitzvah here in Minyan HaMitzvos. And that is lav dafka b'yom hamisa. You don't know when the person died, and you have to bury him whenever you find him. So that's it. Meis mitzvah is noyeg, and that's the mitzvah's kavua. In other words, is a chatchila yom hamisa. I'm not sure how it happens in Bezdin, but in the mitzvah of kavua shames Israel, it's lav dafka yom hamisa. But chatchila, it's certainly yom hamisa. But in Meis mitzvah, where you have no breira, you certainly bury it. We have, you see, what I said before, it's not clear 100%, because there is the puzzle, solin nivos ala eitz ki kovod dikpulera b'yoy mahu. Is that a tam? Maybe it's not a tam at all, but ki sometimes can be elo. You shouldn't solin nivos ala eitz tamo elo kovod dikpulera b'yoy mahu. It's not a tam. Now, the next thing, which I think we'll pick up next week, B'ez Hashem, I assume we'll meet on Hanukkah, bli neder, unless you don't want. The Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvos is very clear that there's mitzvahs kvura on Meis Mitzvah. And he explains the word Meis Mitzvah is the mitzvahs kvura. In Mishnah Torah, we'll see that is not clear at all. And let's assume for the moment that the kvura of Meis Mitzvah is not the mitzvah's kvura. And B'ez Hashem, we'll pick this up next week. Bli neder.